The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, this is Tom Lane, DM2 Software's Vice President of Sales and Marketing. I would like to welcome everyone to today's Warehouse Management webinar. Before I introduce today's presenter, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items. Because of the number of attendees we have on today's webinar, everyone's phones will stay on mute. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the question window that you see in the lower right of your screen. We'll try to answer everybody's questions at the end of the webinar. If we can't get to your question, we'll follow up with you individually after the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. As soon as the recording is available, we'll post it on our YouTube channel, and we'll also post a copy of the slide presentation on our website. On that note, I'd like to introduce Cody Smith. Cody is the National Accounts Manager for ScanCo, our warehouse management partner. And on that note, take it away, Cody.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom. I definitely appreciate you having ScanCo on one of your webinars. And like Tom said, this is a kind of a look into the ScanCo warehouse management software that integrates with your DM2 package. And what we're looking for, in warehouse management is to really just make the process a lot more accurate and a lot more efficient. So to start off, I'm going to go a little bit, kind of behind ScanCo. Who is ScanCo? A little of our history, just to kind of show you how long we've been around and working in warehouse management. But this is actually our 26th year. We've been around since 1989, and really that entire time we've been with Sage. 20 years ago, we were able to secure OEM agreement with Sage, so we are their highest level partner. And that really allows us to have a lot of flexibility, working with companies like DM2 that work on top of the Sage platforms. So we're really able to integrate into these systems a lot more than most warehouse management companies and provide you with a lot higher level of service. In 2001, we created the what we call RF. RF was our radio frequency product, and that was the first real-time system that integrated with Sage 100. Of course, it's been copied many times, and we of course continued innovating new technologies and continued on.
Cody, if I could interrupt you for a quick second. It looks like you still need to go full screen with your presentation slides.
Absolutely. It looks like we're showing. Let me know if anything changes.
Okay, there we go. I see it full. There you go. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. No problem. I appreciate that. All right. So this is obviously the timeline that we were just discussing. And we'll go ahead and continue on. In 2007, we started getting to RFID for Sage, which was one of the newer technologies at the time and is still very new for the ERPs. ScanCo was acquired in 2012, so those of you that we may have dealt with previously, you might have worked with some of the employees here, or even the current owners as they used to work for ScanCo as well. But the company's really changed, so that's why we really appreciate DM2 allowing us this time to show you how our products have changed, how the company's changed, and let you see what we're working on and kind of where we're headed in the future as well. So our newest product is called ScanCo Warehouse. And what's really nice about ScanCo Warehouse is it incorporates all of your traditional warehouse transactions, such as receiving, physical counts, inventory, receipts, and issues, along with shipping and some advanced features like pick and pack, alias item creation, and it's cross-platform. So with it being cross-platform, what's really unique about that is you're not tied to those, those large traditional rugged scanners. You have the ability to run on iOS, Windows Mobile, and Android. And we're really excited to push the Android platform because that allows us to get into hardware that's just as rugged as some of these traditional scanners, but at a price point that's about 1/3. So we can get you into a complete scanning device that's going to put up with oil, dust, dirt, water. It's going to put up with just pretty much anything you can throw at it, and you're not going to be spending that typical $2,500, $3,000 per device. It is cloud-based and local configurations. So being cloud-based, that really allows a lot more flexibility, especially for distributors that are on the move, that have multiple locations. You don't have to worry about VPNs. You don't have to worry about anything to tie back to your Sage system, because it is cloud-based. We're able to access that essentially from anywhere in the world as long as we have internet connectivity. Now, for companies that are a little concerned about that and they don't really want to put anything in the cloud, we do have local configurations that we can discuss with you as well. There's a lot of enhancements that we work with. We do auto update. We have a lot of reporting features and notifications, and this is all part of what's called Scanco Enterprise. It's kind of the newer premium package of Scanco Warehouse, and it's going to provide a lot of features that have never really been seen in the Sage and the DM2 warehouse world before. So what we're looking for, and what we're trying to help you with, is keeping up with growth. Warehouses, they're growing in every industry. Obviously, we're really concerned about the petroleum industry. It's expanding rapidly still, and there's a lot of acquisitions. There's a lot of changes happening in that world that are causing your customers to demand a lot more. They're wanting their products a lot faster. They're wanting to make sure it's accurate. So it's not, your typical, let's get an order, write it down on a piece of paper, send it out into a warehouse. Hopefully they'll get to picking it today. Hopefully they have the right items, and then we'll send it out, kind of when we get a chance. When someone calls you and places an order, they're expecting that order to be not only 100% accurate, but they probably want that to be shipped out today. So being able to provide that with your current staff definitely requires warehouse automation. And keeping that accurate order is, ultra important now, because customers have so many options. It's so easy for them to find another vendor, to find another distributor, that we really want to make sure that these orders are accurate. We have larger warehouses, which means we have more chance of grabbing the wrong items, a little more confusion. So being accurate, of course, leads to customer satisfaction. Not only are we making these orders accurate, getting them out faster, but we can trust our inventory, because we're using the system as we're receiving and as we're shipping. We know whatever DM2 says I have in stock, I actually have in stock. So I can tell my customer with confidence, I have 15 cases of this product you're trying to order in stock at this warehouse. I have 5 more at the other warehouse. So we know what we're saying is accurate, and we're not going to let down that customer. It also allows you to, kind of stay ahead of the curve. By adopting future technology such as the iOS, Android in a warehouse, not only are you gaining efficiencies immediately, but you're kind of, I don't want to say future-proofing your warehouse, but you're setting yourself up to allow a lot more applications. As you know, every day there's a new app, there's something new running on these devices, and having those devices in the warehouse already means you're already ahead of the curve. When that device, that new app comes out, you're ready to go. You can install it and, start using that, whether it's in your trucks with, a company like SmartLogix or someone else. There's a lot of stuff that you can do. And, of course, there's a lot of savings. Accurate inventories, of course, leads to, reduced inventory. You can have less safety stock. You have less, stock disappearing, if you will. By employees, and it just allows you to keep a track on everything. So a couple things that are unique to DM2 and the Scanco software. One of them, a lot of you use pretty heavily, are some of the unit and measure features in DM2 that don't necessarily exist inside of standard Sage ERP systems. And we have that built into the handheld. So if you're worried about how that's going to work, you don't have to worry about it. We already have solutions in place to handle all of your unit of measures. Also for transfer orders, if you're doing the transfer orders out of sales order, the inventory moves, we have an application that's about to launch for that as well. And that's obviously just basically warehouse transfers that are the ones that are not done inside of transaction entry. But they're done through the other processes that DM2 creates for you. And once again, we've been with DM2 over 10 years, so we have many mutual clients that are running both DM2 and Scanco together. one of the new features of ScanCo Enterprise is the dashboard. What's really cool about the dashboard is it really gives you a real-time insight into what's going on in your warehouse. You can see what all of the users are doing, what sales orders they may be picking, what POs they may be receiving, transfers. You can view history and have essentially an unlimited capabilities for reporting. So you can run reports on who's picking the most orders, who's shipping the most orders in a day, and really be able to gain insight into what your users are actually doing out in the warehouse. Along with the dashboard, we have the ability to use notifications and messaging. So now everyone that's using a device in the warehouse has that real-time communication, not only with the warehouse manager on the dashboard, but to each individual user and as a group. So you can see here, as a warehouse manager, I can tell Fred to, please go to the loading dock and process purchase order 1124. And Sally and Fred both said they're on their way. And since we allow multiple users to receive an order, both users can use their handhelds and receive that order immediately. So there's a lot we can do there, to keep the warehouse flowing a lot more efficiently. Now, all of this is permission-based, so if you don't want your users to be able to chat as a group or chat individually, you can restrict that, of course, based on their permissions. When I was talking about the hardware, this gives you a little idea of some of the hardware we were using. A traditional Intermex scanner, which we still have a lot of. And let's see, we had a little issue here. But the Intermex are probably what you're familiar with. They're typically IP67 4-foot drop spec, so they're going to allow a lot more, ruggedness. But they're still large devices. They're awful heavy, and they're not necessarily a good fit for every warehouse. There's definitely a place for them, so it may definitely work for you. The next device we have, well, it does not like this slide at all. All right, sorry about that. We're just going to go back to this slide. When it comes to the hardware, like I said, we have the Linea Pros, we have the Intermex, and we'll go ahead and pause it here. So with the Motorola TC55, that's kind of our middle of the line rugged device. It's a 4-foot drop spec. It's waterproof, oil resistant. The touchscreen works with gloves. So you don't have to worry about not working in certain environments. And as you can see, the cost is definitely a lot less. We can also work with iOS. So we have the iPods that we have here. iPhones, iPods, and iPads are all supported. We can do the iPod and iPhones with a pistol grip. So we have that traditional form factor, if that's important to you, or we can do it without a pistol grip, so it's more of a smartphone form factor. The nice thing about some of these devices is they're cellular as well. So the Motorola TC55, for example, you can put your SIM card in there from your cellular provider, and that could be the device that your drivers are using that you provide to them. So not only is it a cell phone, it's also a full-featured barcode scanner. So we definitely have a lot more hardware available. Some not as rugged, some a lot more rugged, but something for every price point in every warehouse. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to jump into the software itself and show you a little bit about the ScanCo warehouse, how it looks on the handheld, and how it operates. So we're going to go ahead and bring that up. I'm actually using an iPod today. And with the iPod, we have a piece of software called AirServer that's going to let you see exactly what I'm doing. So we'll go ahead and connect that. So you'll see my iPod. I'm already inside my Skinco warehouse application. So I'm just going to go ahead and log in. We'll connect our scanner. And I have all of my information barcoded. So for my user ID, I'm just going to go ahead and scan that. My password I'll scan. And you'll see it's asking for a company. One of the really cool things about this is we can switch companies basically on the fly. So if you need to work inside of one company, but you might have a subsidiary that you also need the system to work in, the users can jump back and forth between the companies on the handheld. When we log in, you'll see we have our main screen. So we have item inquiry, receiving, inventory, transactions, which are inventory receipts, issues, and alias item creation. And then we have transfers, physical count, and some of our shipping and picking options. So some of the transactions I just want to kind of spotlight. First is item inquiry. This is a great transaction if you just need to know something about an item real quick, how many I have on hand, what is its location. All I have to do is scan an item. It shows my description, my unit of measure, and a bin location if one's assigned, as well as my quantity on hand. You'll also see a thumbnail of that item. So if you're storing images of your items inside of your Sage DM2 item maintenance, you'll definitely be able to have that extend out to the handheld. You can choose the items and see the full image. For items that have lot valuation, you'll see it's asking me for a lot number. That's just going to allow me to either scan a lot number and see how many I have, or I can do a lookup down at the bottom. I hit lookup, and it shows all of the lot numbers I have as well as the quantity on hand for each one. So we're going to back out of that. And now we'll go on to receiving. So for receiving, we're just automating the receipt of goods. And all I have to do is I go into receive by order. If you use batches, you can have that turned on. And I just, at that point, have to choose an order. So I'll choose an order. It validates that that's a good purchase order. And I probably should have explained there's 3 ways to get the information in. So as I'm on this order, of course I can scan that if we have barcoded purchase orders sent down to the warehouse. I can also type it in with the on-screen keyboard. So if I just want to type it in from my vendor's packing list, I can do that. Or I just do the lookup, and that's where I can manually choose an order. Once it validates that that's a good purchase order, I basically just have to scan the items. Once again, I can go into the lookup. It's going to display all of the items on the purchase order, as well as the quantity ordered, received, and unreceived. And this is a dynamic list, so as I go through and receive these items, I can scan an item. Tells me description, unit of measure, bin location. I can tell exactly how many I received. If I scan an item and that item is not on that purchase order, of course it's going to tell me item not found in purchase order. That way you're only receiving the items that you order. Now if it's an item that you still want to receive, we do have that capability because we are a real-time system. As soon as that's added to the purchase order, you can receive it on the handheld immediately. The next item I scan is a lotted item, so I do have to put the lot number I'm receiving. I happen to have that barcoded as well, so I can just scan that. Go ahead and choose my quantity. And then I can scan my first item again that I had. You see we still have a quantity of 2 to receive. So I'll just say I want to receive 1 more of that item. And now when I go into the lookup, like I said, this is a dynamic list. So I still have 1 of item 6655. And then item 8971 that I received in full, you'll see is actually dropped off of the list. Now, if your items don't have barcodes, a lot of times our bulk items aren't going to have barcodes. I can just choose the item from this list. So I can just touch on 6655 and tell it that's what I'm receiving and type in my quantity. So you don't necessarily have to have all of your items barcoded. the system is set up so you can use it with or without barcodes. Once we're done, I have a review feature. So if you want to go in and review everything you've done, you can definitely do that before telling DM2 that you're done with the order. And all it's going to show me is the items I've scanned, the quantities, and of course lot numbers or serial numbers if those are being tracked. You have limited editing capabilities as well, so if there was a mistake that was made, you can go into each line and modify that before it sends it through. So once we're done, we just hit send, and at that point that says it's been collected, my receipt of goods has already been created in Sage, and I just go in as normal, review that receipt of goods, and post. All right, another transaction I'll show is just a standard physical count. Using automated data collector for physical count, it's about a 70 to 75% reduction in time. A lot of studies say 80, but I'd rather be on the safe side. Regardless, you're going to save a lot of time by using this. Not only does it make the count process more efficient by not having to keep up with paper, write down lot numbers, it eliminates all of the entry back into Sage. So everything is still set up. You still go into your physical count. Inventory is frozen as normal. We just start scanning our items. We can type in the quantities that we're scanning or that we're counting. Lot numbers, of course, we can scan as well. You'll see at the bottom we have a button that says each. That's what's called scan each. And this kind of puts the scanner in what I like to call the grocery store mode, where every time I scan an item, it takes it as a quantity of 1. So if I scan our 6655 3 times in a row, that's a quantity of 3. We'll go ahead and turn that off. And once it's off, we're back to scanning and typing in a quantity. So if I go into review, do a lookup, I can expand out 6655, and you'll actually see where I counted a quantity of 500, and then I counted 3 with scan each. So the quantities are accumulated, not only across each handheld, but multiple handhelds. So if I counted 503, Tom counted 500. Once that goes back into Sage, it's going to show a count of 1003. So it doesn't matter how many handhelds you have counting. It's always going to go back into Sage the proper way. And of course, to do that, we just hit the send button. Now that's in Sage. When I go to my physical count entry, all of my lots, quantities, all my information's there. I just run the variance report and recount as necessary, and then finish my count. So now we'll go into our shipping. There's 2 methods for shipping with Scanco. The first method is just our standard shipping. Whether you're going into invoice or shipping data entry, you would just choose the proper icon here, either shipping or invoice. I'm going to go into invoice, choose a batch, and then typically you're going to scan a sales order. From the pick ticket, you can add barcodes to that. In this case, I'm going to do a lookup. I can actually sort by order, customer, or date if I touch the header field, but I'm just going to go ahead and choose an order. It validates that's a good order, and when I do the lookup, once again, you're going to see it shows all of my quantities ordered, shipped, and unshipped, just like the PO. So I have that dynamic list here. I can scan item. We can type how many we're shipping. Once again, if you scan an item that's not on a sales order, it will stop you. That way that customer's not getting the wrong items. Scan the next item. Lot number. If for some reason the lot number is not barcoded, you can do a lookup, and it will show you all of your available lot numbers. So I'll choose a lot number. I'm going to, you see it's asking for a quantity of 3. I'm going to type in a quantity of 5. and you'll see it'll stop me. It's going to say quantity entered exceeds quantity left to ship. My system right now set up to what we call a hard stop, where I cannot continue. If you allow over shipping, you can allow that. It'll still prompt the user, let them know they're trying to ship too much, but it will allow them to continue. So we continue scanning our items, validating it's the right items. We're collecting the actual lot numbers, serial numbers that we're sending to the customer. And when we're done, as I'm sure you can guess, we hit send, takes that information. Since I did not ship all of the items, it's telling me that these items are short because it's unresolved. Do you want to continue collecting data? I just say no, and it sends that in. It's now created the invoice inside of DM2. If you're using shipping, the only additional pieces it'll ask for on the shipping data entry is it will ask for your shipper ID, and you have the capability to tell it which box each item's going into for your package level detail. Now, for those that are set up a little more as a true warehouse distribution, it might make sense, instead of just everything going straight into shipping, that you want to pick the items first. So for that, we have what's called our advanced shipping module, and that gives us the picking icon at the bottom, and this enables what's called wave picking and order picking. Wave picking and order picking are both directed picks, and by that we mean it's going to base it on the bin locations you have set up, and it's going to go in either ascending or descending order. So I can go in, I can choose a warehouse, I tell it a staging location, and then I just choose a sales order. If the sales order has already been picked, is in the process of being picked by another user, and it just has not been finished, you're going to see it's going to stop. That way, it does not allow me to pick an order twice. So all of these validations are in place for that. Oh, and now I forgot which one's the proper order to pick. Sorry about that. Okay. Let's see. These are mostly in our 001 warehouse is the problem here. So let me go ahead and get a new sales order. All right, so on the picking side, once we have our proper sales order, you'll see it's actually going, instead of just having me scan the items, it's going to walk me through the warehouse. So it's telling me, go to this bin location and scan this item. So when we get to that bin location, we can scan that item, or let's say for some reason I got there and the item was not there, I can actually skip the item. It'll take me to the next item on that sales order and the next bin that's in, of course, order, whether it's ascending or descending. So we'll scan that item, give it our quantity, and now we're back to the same item because we only have 2 items on the sales order. And if I truly don't have that, I can just hit send, and at that point that order has been picked. Once an order is picked, you have 2 options. You can ship it out as normal by the process that you saw first, where we actually scan each item, or you can go into either invoice or ship picked. And what these 2 transactions do is basically allows me the capability to instantly create the invoice or the shipping entry based on the information that I told it I picked. That way I don't have to scan everything again, and it makes the process a lot faster, but still kind of gives me that double validation where I can go over it. So you'll see when I choose the order, I can submit to invoicing right away, or I can review first. Of course, if I do review, it'll show the items that I have picked, and I just hit send, and it'll send that in, immediately create the invoice entry. The last piece I'm going to show today is going to be the alias. And I'm just going to touch on that a little bit, because alias we have a lot of customers using. Alias allows, of course, me to marry different item numbers together. So if my item 6655, but the item I'm ordering from my vendor is 1234, as long as that's set up as an alias inside of Sage, I can use my vendor's barcode. We can create aliases on the fly. So let's say I order, a case of product from my vendor. It comes in, and I don't have that set up as an alias, and it's just 243. I can say it's 243, but my item number is 6655. Now at this point, that alias has been created, and no matter which transaction I'm on in the handheld, every time I type in 243, it's going to actually know, or scan 243 for that matter, it's going to know it's my item 6655. So as you see, everything's real time. It's communicating with Sage, creating those entries. Eliminates a lot of the worries of a batch system. So we're not worried about that data, not transferring. It's not locking you out of everything. So there's a lot of benefits to that real-time connection. Of course, one of the biggest being multiple locations and having it work out in the field from the trucks as well for certain transactions. So with that, I'm going to kind of wrap up the demo portion. And at this time, I'm going to pass it back to Tom for some questions if anybody has any.
Okay, thanks, Cody. We do have a few questions. Could you go back to the slide presentation before I get into the Q&A portion? I just want to put in a quick plug.
Absolutely.
For next month's webinar.
Let's meet. Hopefully this one will work. All right. Oh,
there we go. Thank you.
Oh, maybe.
Close out your iPod. Perfect. Thank you. As for those of you who are regular webinar attendees, we always take an opportunity to plug the next webinar that's coming up, and I'd like you to mark your calendars for June 11th at 11:30 a.m. Pacific, 2:30 Eastern, for our What's New in version 2013 2.0 release webinar. This release focuses a lot on ways to generate revenue. So you can see we've got a list of different things there. A lot of these are tied into handling common carrier relationships, freight surcharges, delivery fees, and that type of thing. And our presenter is going to be our very own Chris Lemagne. He is one of the partners, co-owners of the company, as well as our Vice President of Technology. So I encourage you all to mark your calendars. When I send out the message to let everybody know that this webinar is available to be viewed on our YouTube channel, I'll also put in the first invitation for you to register for this webinar. So that'll be coming out early next week. All right, we can open it up to questions and answers. We've got a few questions that have come in. First one is actually from Denise Austin. She's a DM2 consultant, and she is asking if there are multiple people scanning inventory for inventory count, is there a way to evaluate if someone has scanned something twice when updating it in our system?
Awesome. That's an excellent question. And unfortunately, there's not. The way the system works, it accumulates across multiple locations. The only way that we would be able to get close to that is if we ran a report. So that it is possible that you can run reports to see what each user counted. So if you did have a large variance, you could run a report just on that item to see how many users counted it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Cody. Another question's come in. Let's see. This one has come in from Kevin over at SC Fuels. Kevin is asking, does this interface with SmartLogix or any of the other truck technology systems we use? I know you had mentioned SmartLogix earlier in your presentation, Cody.
Right. So we don't have any actual integrations or official partnerships with those companies. We do operate, our software operates on same devices. But I will say that we are, in close contact with SmartLogix, especially looking at what we can do for DM2 customers.
Okay, it looks like that's all the questions we have for now, Cody. I just want to remind everybody that today's webinar has been recorded. Once the recording is available, I'll post it along with a copy of the presentation slides on our website and our YouTube channel, and I'll send a message around to let everybody know when those are available. That should be sometime on Monday. If you can think of any other questions after the webinar or would like to find out more about today's topic, please feel free to email us at sales@dm2.com. Cody, I'd like to thank you very much for doing an excellent job with your presentation, and I would like to thank everybody for attending today's warehouse management webinar.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, everyone else.
All right, Cody, thank you very much. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.